The moment you came here for has arrived. The whole glory of Team Rocket set has been revealed, giving us a look at the rest of Destined Rivals, which comes to Pokemon TCG Live on May 29th. In the past, I've gone over every card in a Japanese set regardless of its playability, but with Team Rocket having nearly 100 cards, I'll have to focus like I'm wearing a sash. Of course, I'll start with the Team Rocket's cards before moving to the rest. And in each of those sections, I'll do my best to cover the new cards I haven't previewed yet before getting to the old new cards that I have talked about before. After being teased as a pre-release promo, Mimikyu has been fully revealed. And I gotta say, this is the worst pre-release promo in the history of the Pokemon TCG. Like, it makes me wonder if the Pokemon Company International even read the card before deciding to put it in a pre-release kit. While the level-headed among us thought it would copy their active basic or evolution, the truly galaxy-brained among us surmised that the gem part of the attack name referenced Terras. Well, they were right, even though it makes absolutely no sense as a pre-release promo in a set with no Terra Pokemon. Anyways, for a Team Rocket's energy, Mimikyu copies any attack of your opponent's active Terra Pokemon. Pair it with Lily's Clefairy EX and Gardevoir, or Mewtwo, or a Terra Box deck, now you can easily one-shot a Dragapult EX while only giving up a single prize in return. Or just chuck it into a Mewtwo deck and have a backup attacker who can up against Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon, Charizard, Terrapodos, all the evolutions, and any other Terra Pokemon that might appear. Ultimately, while Mimikyu will definitely see play, this is the worst case scenario in terms of card text. And whoever decided to make this a pre-release promo shouldn't even be allowed to decide which brand of foot lotion they have in the bathroom. Also a pre-release promo for Destined Rivals, Tyranitar is the best case scenario in terms of text on the card. For the card itself though, I'm not sure how competitive it's going to be. Starting with the Pupitar, it's great. Not only does its attack do 30 damage, but Explosive Awakening, which is also the reason I had to buy new sheets last week, lets you evolve into Tyranitar. As expected, when Tyranitar's in the active spot, it puts 2 damage counters on each of your opponent's basic Pokemon between turns. The issue I have is with the attack. 4 energy is a lot to ask for, essentially forcing you to run Reversal Energy and Counter Gain. 180 is fine damage when paired with its ability, and the fact that you discard an energy from their active really helps. Maybe if Tyranitar was a stage 1 with a 3 attack cost, it'd be as good as Unbroken Bond's Weezing that had a very similar ability. As it stands, you'll probably have to do some Gravity Gemstone or Pokemon League HQ shenanigans, hoping you slowly melt away their basics. Alternatively, you could go with 4 de-evolution and just try to only hit evolution decks. But getting a stage 2 up and running turn after turn, especially one that has an awkward attack cost, might be asking too much. Now we come to the portion of the video that you shouldn't watch in the dark because you might get scared. When Arbok is in the active spot, your opponent can't play any ability Pokemon from their hand unless they're Team Rocket's Pokemon. While this isn't super duper devastating to evolution decks as things like TM Evolution, Boss's Orders, Nest Ball, and Iron Bundle exist, it's going to be Niana. That's annoying backwards. One of the decks that's going to hate Arbok the most is Charizard. Because its ability only activates when you evolve from hand, Arbok kinda shuts down that whole thing. The best strategy against those evolution decks is to simply load up on de-evolution. So long as you have more de-evolution than they have evolution, well, you basically win the game. Except against Dragapult because that doesn't have an ability. Another bonus is that Arbok's attack doesn't completely suck. For a reversal energy, it does 30 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon, but Terra Pokemon have a built-in bench barrier, and if they get Shaman down at any point, Arbok loses its competitive edge. Don't worry, the hatred of abilities doesn't stop there. A Stadium, Team Rocket's Watchtower shuts off the abilities of all colorless Pokemon. Put the Watchtower into play, now all of a sudden Noctowl, the Dunsparce, Pidgeot EX, Squawkabilly EX, and Blood Moon Ursaluna EX don't have abilities. This means going first will be stronger for decks that don't run colorless ability Pokemon, as you can just put the Watchtower down and oops, no Squawkabilly for you. The one positive is that it allows Slacking EX to attack in every situation. I don't think Slacking suddenly becomes playable due to this one Stadium, but it's going to be at least 6.9% more viable come Destined Rivals. We move from ability control to hand control. Because one 30 hit point Buttface wasn't enough, they had to give us another in Chingling. For 0 energy, Chingling does 0 damage, but it discards a random card from your opponent's hand. Pair it with Unfair Stamp or Xerosic's Machinations plus Gothitelle, and you can leave them with a crappy card in hand plus a crappy top deck. I'm choosing to believe that this particular archetype doesn't quite have what it needs yet, though that could just be me denying the inevitable. In happier news, Team Rocket's Factory seems like an insane card. If either player played a Team Rocket supporter during their turn, they can draw 2 cards. Best of all, the factory can be activated at any point during your turn. So if you drew the factory off of Ariana Grande, you can slap it down and draw 2 more cards. There's 5 Team Rocket supporters to choose from, plus the receiver, making the factory a no-brainer in a Rockets deck. It can even be activated turn 1 going first, as you can use Proton to get 3 basic Team Rockets Pokemon. And this essentially turns Giovanni into a Guzma plus a draw 2. Yeah, the Watchtower is a great card and all, but if you want to play the coolest new Team Rocket stadium, it's the factory. I have to say, I'm massively disappointed by the new Nidoking EX and Nidoqueen. I've seen people say they're excited for Nidoking, but it just takes too much. For a Team Rocket's energy and a colorless, Nidoking EX does 100 damage and poisons. The benefit is that the poison damage is increased to 8 during Pokemon Checkup. That gets a huge meh from me. And 240 damage for 4 energy on a stage 2 is barely better than Roaring Moon EX's Calamity Storm, which can do 220 for 3 energy if there's a stadium down. Even if you add in Perilous Jungle to increase poison damage by another 20 between turns, it just feels like Nidoking needs a lot to make it playable. As for the Queen, which has regularly been better than its counterpart, it can do 180 damage for a single energy if you have any Nidoking in play. Since it's not limited to Team Rocket's cards, you can play the 151 Nidoking, which attacks for free if you have Nidoqueen in play. But it's all just so underwhelming. You need to have 2 different Stage 2 lines on the field to make the combo work. And there just isn't enough synergy there aside from Nidorina being able to evolve your Dark Pokemon. Maybe if Dark Patch was still in Standard, these could work, but I don't see them making much of an impact. Another one of the few Team Rocket's Pokemon that needs more than just a Team Rocket's energy to attack, Hypno could be a fun one. And by fun one, I mean cause me more mental anguish than Butterfree. For 3 Psychic Energy, your opponent flips a coin for each of their bench Pokemon. For each Tails, 80 damage is done to their active. Weakness and resistance aren't calculated though, so one-shotting Dragapult will be much tougher. The combo here is pretty obvious. Put a bunch of accompanying flute in your deck, fill up their bench to 5, and hope you flip at least 3 heads. Xatu can help with the energy cost, and you can even get spicy with Lickitung or Lily's Rabombi. If you can stop fantasizing long enough about what that tongue can do to your feet, you'll see that Lickitung's attack pulls down basic Pokemon from their hand. Hypno will be rogue, just like that Star Wars movie starring Qui-Gon Jinn Erso. So don't go expecting too much other than watching me play it live on stream for several hours while proclaiming that despite the myriad of losses, it's totally a fun deck to play. More powerful than Slowbro's ability from Scarlet and Violet base set, Team Rocket's Orbeetle allows you to move as many damage counters from one of your Team Rocket's Pokemon to another of your Pokemon. Because there might be some confusion here, you can't over-damage one of your Pokemon. So if you try to move 100 damage counters to Orbeetle, it'll be knocked out after 13 and give out a prize. Where this ability really becomes useful is with Wobbuffet. Let's say you're facing off against Dragapult EX. They hit your active Mewtwo for 200, then spread 60 to the bench. You can use Orbeetle's ability to move that 60 to Mewtwo, retreat Mewtwo to the bench, then attack with Wobbuffet to fully heal Mewtwo and send that 260 to their active. Unfortunately, Orbeetle is a stage 2, and I'm not quite sure how many Team Rocket decks are going to want to jam in Orbeetle just for the potential of maybe doing something funny at some point. Now, if you're someone who goes to a Pokemon TCG vending machine and clears it out, skip ahead about 30 seconds, because I need to talk about Dottler. While it's an attack, not an ability like Gothitelle, Dottler allows you to look at the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck, then put them back in any order. At some point in the next 3 years, you will lose a game to this card. It's a control player's dream. All they need is someone who can passively mill your deck, and it's insane. So yeah, I'm not excited for this. Not all Team Rocket's cards are created equal. For some of the leftovers, we have Murkrow, which doesn't even have a Honchkrow to evolve into. It gets a supporter and can maybe be annoying. Grimer could be funny, but we've had cards like this in the past that take a knockout and they never see play because evolving or switching breaks the effect. Muck, meanwhile, doesn't make me want to create a sticky mess. And the evil Amazon delivery drone is just weird. You can swap one of their prizes with a card in their hand, except that card remains face up. So you give your opponent more information to help beat you off. Raticate is completely useless, potentially destroying itself in the process of only dealing 90 damage. And Houndoom requires 2 energy to deal just 120 damage, except a Team Rocket's energy won't work since that only provides Psychic and Darkness. Okay, I know I should have included these cards when talking about Arbok and the Watchtower, but you have to understand something. I care about you. And I think that deserves your subscription. Also, the Psyduck and Golduck are gym promos in Japan, While it would make sense to include them in Destined Rivals, I think you can tell by the fact that Mimikyu is a pre-release promo that the Pokemon Company International is into making dollars, not cents. So these super powerful cards could come out in Destined Rivals on May 29th, or they could come out in 2026, we just don't know yet. But they are absolutely insane. Put Psyduck or Golduck into play, now Pokemon that knocked themselves out no longer have an ability. If the wording of the ability confuses you, let me simplify things. Dusclops and Dusknoir's Reign of Terror will end when Psyduck comes out. Psyduck's Poffin searchable, and once it's in play, Dusclops and Dusknoir can no longer blow themselves to hit for 5 or 13 damage counters. This will severely weaken Dragapult and Charizard. Unfortunately, more balanced cards like Magneton and Fortress EX get caught in the crossfire, but it's always nice to see the developers realize their mistakes and address them, even if it's a little too late. On the less exciting end of things, we have Team Rocket's Kangaskhan EX. It can do 220 damage for 3 colorless energy if you played a Team Rocket supporter, but that just seems like a worse Terapagos EX. And the Hypnosis device puts their active to sleep if the Pokemon it's attached to gets damaged, making it somewhat annoying for a Badoo, I guess. Otherwise, the only other application would be in a status condition deck like Cradilly. As promised, it's time to look at the other Team Rocket's cards that I've covered in previous videos. For the Mewtwo EX deck, which does seem a lot better now than when it was originally revealed, you rely on 4 key cards, and Klefki isn't one of them. Sitting at a whopping 280 hit points, Mewtwo can't attack unless you have 4 more Team Rocket's Pokemon in play. Mewtwo is 1, so you need to have 3 benched Rocket's Pokemon. Then Erasure Ball does 160 base damage for 2 Psychic and a Colorless, but you can increase that to 280 by discarding 2 energy from your bench Pokemon. In order to power up Mewtwo, you'll need to use Team Rocket's energy. Attach it to a Team Rocket's Pokemon, they get 2 in any combination of Psychic and Darkness energy. After that, use Counter Gain or Energy Switch or Mela or whatever else you might need to get a 3rd energy on Mewtwo to attack. The best partner for Mewtwo is Spidops. The attack is good, able to do 180 damage if 6 of your Pokemon are Team Rockets, and that can jump to 240 with Area 0 and Terra. But the ability is what you really care about. Once during your turn, accelerate a basic energy from the discard pile to Spidops. This is the same ability as Naganadel from Lost Thunder, giving you someone who can offer up fodder for Mewtwo's attack every turn. Plus, you can energy switch an energy from Spidops to Mewtwo to fulfill Erasure Ball's attack cost. Then there's Articuno. Again, it's the ability that's most important. If Articuno's in play, all of your basic Team Rocket's Pokemon are protected from effects of attacks. So Dragapult can't spread damage counters to them with Phantom Dive, Roaring Moon can't use its one-hit KO move, status condition effects from attacks are blocked, and more. Expect most Mewtwo lists to have a single copy. Sticking with Mewtwo, Wobbuffet will probably be a one-of in there. Should Mewtwo survive a big attack like one from Archaludon, you can switch into Wobbuffet, attach a Team Rocket's energy, and move all counters from Mewtwo to your opponent's active. This is also where the Orbeetle would help with moving counters to Mewtwo, but I personally think it's too much work for too little payoff. As for the other legendary birds, I see them more as fringe cards. Moltres EX discards your opponent's active, but you have to put 4 energy on the damn thing and discard a Team Rocket's energy. I'd much rather just knock them out than do all that. Zapdos, meanwhile, can be a part of an energy control deck. Its attack moves 1 energy from their active to a bench Pokemon, and Handy Fan does the same thing. You will have to ensure they have a weak attacker back there like Latias EX or Squawkabilly EX, but if they do, it could really screw them over. My opinion on Crobat EX hasn't changed. Yes, it will be useful against evolution decks, because when you evolve into Golbat from hand, you put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. And when you evolve into Crobat EX from hand, you put 2 damage counters on 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. Run de-evolution, and you can do a potential board wipe, taking all 6 prizes in 1 turn. I'm just not sure how you deal with big basic decks. Lethal Return only does 120 damage. You can return Crobat to your hand, but you have to discard the Team Rocket's energy attached to it in the process. And we now know that special energy can't be recycled, so you have to be super careful when it comes to losing energy. Sneasel should be a good partner for Crobat, able to deal 20 damage to one of their bench Pokemon for each damage counter on it. Except Shaman will be out on the same day, and Terras have the built-in bench barrier. We'll see how Crobat performs once it's out in Japan next week, but I have low expectations. As fun as Team Rocket's Weezing could be, it'll never ascend past a road deck. For a Team Rocket's energy, Weezing does 40 damage times the number of Pokemon with Weezing or Coughing in its name on both sides of the field. Get 6 of them down, that's 240 damage. And the regular Weezing can troll them, taking free prizes if you flip heads when it's knocked out. But your entire board has to be Weezing or Coughing to take full advantage of the attack, leaving you to rely on supporters. And my experience so far in the Journey Together format on PTCGL doing just that has not been a blast. Speaking of something that smells awful, we have Ampharos and Persian EX. Both are unplayable. Ampharos puts 4 damage counters on any Pokemon they evolve from hand, except it doesn't stack. That's awful on a stage 2. And Persian EX looks at the top 10 cards of their deck and can copy the attack of any Pokemon revealed this way. So it can potentially do nothing. Maybe if the attack discarded the Pokemon you copy, it could be a thing, but no, it'll never be a thing. For the last Team Rocket's Pokemon, we have Porygon Z. This is a lot better today than it was a couple weeks ago, except even now it's still a road deck, and maybe not even a good one. For a Team Rocket's energy, Porygon does 20 damage times the number of Team Rocket supporters in your discard pile. There's 5 of them, meaning you can have up to 20 in your deck for a damage potential of 400. And the ability discards 2 cards from your hand to draw a card, so it should be able to function. It's just that I've played decks like this before. What ends up happening is you don't get the combo up until turn 3 or 4, at which point they've already taken 3 prizes and you're left scrambling like an Execute that just got hit with a flamethrower. Looking at those supporters, there's 4 great ones and Ariana is the best. If all of your Pokemon in play are Team Rocket's Pokemon, you drop to 8 cards in hand. It's going to be an easy 4 of in every Team Rocket's focused deck, though you will have to be careful about using cards like Lily's Clefairy, Pheasantipity, and Squawkabilly. Proton is easily the second best. Playable on turn 1 going first, it simply grabs 3 basic Team Rocket's Pokemon and puts them into your hand. Thanks to Team Rocket's Receiver, which gets any Team Rocket supporter, you really only need 1 or 2 Proton in the deck along with those 4 Receiver. Then we have Giovanni. It's effectively a Guzma or Prime Catcher able to switch your active Team Rocket's Pokemon to the bench, while also gusting up one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. If you're building a Team Rocket's deck, these 4 cards you see here are the butt bone. Additionally, you want at least 1 copy of Archer. If one of your Team Rocket's Pokemon was just knocked out, you shuffle draw 5 and they shuffle draw 3. It's simply a great card to play early, potentially slowing them down. As for Petrol, I don't know. It can get any trainer card and is receiver searchable, so I guess you want 1 copy, but it's pretty underwhelming otherwise. And finally, Great Ball and Venture Bomb. Great Ball is just capturing Aroma for Team Rocket's Pokemon, grabbing either a basic or evolution depending on a coin flip. As for Venture Bomb, it's another coin flip item. If heads, you can put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. If tails, your active gets 2 damage counters. Paired with Monkey Dory though, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And if you manage to flip 2 heads, you could potentially donk a Badoo. Or get really lucky and you could donk a Squawkabilly EX by pairing it with a poison deck. So please don't do that. Even though it feels like I've been talking for an Eternatus, the glory of Team Rocket isn't whole yet. There's plenty of non-Team Rockets cards in the set, including the highly disappointing Arboliva EX. For a single Grass Energy on a stage 2, you can choose one of your opponent's Pokemon 6 times and deal 20 damage to it. Using my expert math skills, I can take a deduce and tell you that 6 times 2 is 120. So Arboliva basically does 120 damage for 1 energy. The best partners for this attack are King Gambit, Lycanroc, and Glaceon EX. Well, Lycanroc and Glaceon exist. You'd really only be able to make this work with King Gambit, who one-shots any Pokemon with 4 or more damage counters on it for a single energy. My issues with Arboliva are plentiful. For starters, we have Shaman on the same day. For seconds, Terras have a built-in bench barrier, meaning they block its attack. And for 11Zs, Uxie is just better. Except Uxie is a basic single prizer, not a stage 2 prizer that produces the oil I rub on my feet. Yeah, there's no way this thing sees play. Well, now this one's interesting. We knew about the regular Rotom having a tool drop attack, but it turns out Mow, Wash, and Heat are also going to be able to put on a gadget show. For 2 colorless energy, they deal 30 damage times the number of tool cards attached to all of your Pokemon. At the very least, if you want to build this archetype, you can hit for Grass, Fire, and Lightning weakness, which are all great right now. Water isn't, so ignore the Wash Rotom unless you're really worried about Ethan's Typhlosion. The issues with Rotom tools are twofold. The attack requires 2 colorless energy in a world without double turbo energy. You can use things like counter gain and experience share, which the deck needs anyways, but it's an extra step for something that already feels lackluster. Additionally, Revavroom EX is your only option for overloading somebody with tools, except it's a stage 1 prizer. The benefit is that you could play the baby Revavroom as well for card draw, but again, this is a lot of effort for a deck that didn't function when Pachirisu was in format, and that had all the necessary tools to win. Since I want to try to at least mention most of the cards here, let me rapidly fling some crap at you. Yes, with 100 cards, that means there's a lot of filler in Team Rocket, especially on the stage 1 side. Breloom and Lurantis are literally useless. Arcanine could be okay if Dark types had a fire weakness, but they don't. And Obama Snow requires 4 energy to deal 240 damage, which is worse than Crabominable, who can deal 250 for as little as 1 energy. I can see a world where I put my head between this Medichamp's thighs and it squeezes. I can also see a world where 170 for a single fighting energy isn't bad, though you do have to run things like Crushing Hammer and Handheld Fan to limit how much energy they have attached. Barraskewda, Forretress, and Probopass meanwhile are all passes. Now that I've caught up on the new cards, let's get to the old new cards, starting with Blaziken. 120 to their active plus 120 to a bench Pokemon would be good in a world without Shaman. Add in the fact that Blaziken is a stage 2 that requires 3 energy to attack while discarding 2, and it's hard to see this getting much play. Maybe you throw a copy into a Blaziken EX deck for snipe possibilities, but that's likely about it. The biggest boost this provides is a 70 hit point Torchic. Now you no longer have to rely on the 60 hit point version in your Blaziken EX deck, which was easily bodied by Dragapult. As someone who enjoys whacking off every day, I am still super duper excited for the Huntail Gorobus deck. While the whole evolving from Clamperl thing sucks, everything else seems amazing. Whenever one of your water Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an attack, Huntail's ability sends all attached water energy into your hand rather than the discard pile. This pairs perfectly with Gorobus, who does 30 damage times the number of water energy attached to it. But when you launch Gorobus's attack, you can attach any number of water energy from your hand directly to it. Pair it with the Dunsparce and pure card draw supporters, throw in 15 or so water energy, and you have something that can seemingly handle all of the multi-prize decks out there except Dragapult. Now that we know all of Team Rocket, Titan EX does seem like it could be a problem. With its ability, Titan makes itself immune to items and supporters. That's annoying, especially if they have Mimikyu in the active and you can't deal with it. But part of the reason why Primal Groudon EX was so strong back in the day is that it could be paired with Wobbuffet, who shut off everyone's abilities. And Groudon's ability was actually an ancient trait. The closest we have to that now is Arbok with Watchtower. So you get Arbok set up, they can't manually evolve into an ability Pokemon, and all the while you're attaching to Titan and preparing for big attacks in the late game if you need them. It'll be slow and prone to accidents, but so is my newest son, and I don't know the point I was trying to make. Looking like a weird emo band that got into boxing for some reason, an Annihilate deck will definitely be a thing in the Rogue world. The reason Apes Together strong is that the previous 2 either knock out both actives or deal up to 350 damage. The new Annihilate can deal 280 damage for 2 fighting if you flip Tails on a Venture Bomb or use Calamitous Snowy Mountain properly. Plus, you can chuck in a Relicanth and use the new Annihilate to deal a decent amount of damage for a single energy. While I don't think it'll be meta due to the stage 2-ness and potential prizing problems, I can't wait to spank my monkey. Because the Pokemon Company enjoys it when people in their 40s and 50s spend thousands of dollars on packs only to pull an unplayable EX, Regirock is in the set. To be fair, calling it unplayable is an insult to Persian EX, but only doing 280 damage to a stage 2 for 4 energy is just way too much, especially when you aren't one-shotting any stage 2s with that attack. Last but certainly not least, Zamazenta. Matang is already going to be great again thanks to the reprint of Energy Recycler and Destined Rivals. With Zamazenta, you give yourself somebody who can KO a weak single prizer with its attack, then potentially deal massive damage in retaliation to whoever they attack with next. So while something like Slowking gets worse with our next set, Matang is back, baby. And if you're looking for non-Team Rocket's trainers, well, there aren't any. On the whole, the glory of Team Rocket seems like a decent set. While the supporters and stadiums are an A+, I do feel like the Pokemon are lacking one busted card to make them truly dominant in the meta. We'll get a sneak peek at our new Destined Rivals format in just over a week, so make sure you're subscribed for when that video goes live. Until then, let me know what you think about these new cards coming to Pokemon TCG Live on May 29th.